Well, Gary, with the bye coming up, we thought we'd take the opportunity today to not only review our round 11 game against Essendon on the weekend, but also maybe have a little bit of a chat about how the first half of the season has panned out overall. So we'll start with Saturday's loss to Essendon, 11 points. Would it be fair to say that although you might be a little bit frustrated that we couldn't get the result, there were some fundamental aspects within the game that have probably improved from the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think that's probably right, Sam. I thought we played a better brand of footy than we have had for a few weeks. I thought we defended better. There was not as much flow in the game where the opposition could actually score relatively easy goals. So that was a positive. I thought there were more genuine contests for us to be able to defend when the ball was in dispute better. And we also had some, reasonable passages of play, but the downside was that obviously you said we lost, and I probably felt the momentum about midway through the third quarter really swung Essendon's way, and it didn't seem like a big margin when you think about it, but once they got, we got 12 points in front at about the 10 or 11 minute mark in the third, and then we genuinely contributed to their next 5 scoring shots, where either we had the ball or we coughed it up or we made really poor decisions, or even as a matter of fact we kicked in from full back straight to the opposition. So all of a sudden that was an 8-point turnaround. Now I know we did get another goal, but then Nathan Batsanis had a genuine chance to score from probably about 45 out, put us in front at three-quarter time, and wasn't able to convert. And then of course from that point on we just couldn't make up that margin, so they got some easy goals at the start of the last, and then the game was very much in the balance right up till fairly late. But we were better, I thought, as a team, but we're still maintaining that there's so much more room for improvement, because the things that we are doing not well will certainly give the opposition a bit of a look in, and against an AFL listed side that's got, I think, 17 AFL listed players, you can't afford to do that.
And as we've sort of already touched on, it was basically goal for goal all day. But there was a little burst from Essendon either side of three-quarter time where they kicked 5 goals to 1 and ultimately probably broke our backs a little bit from that point on. So was that simply a case of their more experienced players that they had in the side finally getting on top, or were there still some things that our boys probably could have done better in those big moments when they came?
Yeah, I'm always a coach that says to the players about playing the big moments well, and that's what stands you aside from just an average team. And look, we've got a lot of youth that's coming through the group at the minute, whether it's what we're doing with Kate Ainsworth as a 23rd, or what we're doing because we're forced to do it because of injuries. And even again, we had one little interesting issue with Lucas Cook, who started getting a migraine at 12:40 before the game on Saturday, and right up till 7 minutes to 2 we were still deciding whether he was able to play or not, and I had to pull young Brandon Hayes, who was sitting up in the grandstand with his girlfriend scoffing on a pie at 1:35. So that just seems a little bit of where our luck's at the minute, but it's probably easy to say that rather than actually genuinely digging deep and saying, well, these are the reasons why. And I think it's a bit of both in relation to your question. Essendon were a little bit more poised, they had a little bit more class and a little bit more polish, and they were just able to convert, and we couldn't do that. So is that a sign of inexperience? I think it is. Is it a sign of lack of poise and class and polish? I think it is. But also too, it's a lot of about, and again, I'm always an interested believer in looking at how our best and fairest votes are going, and over the last, probably 3 of the last 4 weeks, I've found it difficult to vote more than probably 6 or 7 players out of 23. So that's also probably saying a little bit about where our playing personnel are at in relation to the highest contribution they can give us, and that's obviously playing somewhere near their best.
And so we might turn our attention now to the bigger picture of season 2015. We'll start with probably what all the fans want to know is which individuals could we hopefully look forward to seeing back in the side after the break and that bit of a freshen up this week?
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good question, Sam, and I was over there this morning actually having a look at the whiteboard and just seeing where some of the players are at. Now, who I would anticipate being available would be Blake Pearson, because he only had the 1 week suspension, and that was probably costly in relation to, 1, where Blake had been able to play till that point in time, and 2, possibly helping us win the game. I would have thought that Hugh Sandilands will be available for selection after the bye. Now, the others that are in that grouping that are been unavailable for a number of weeks in Lee Osborne, Chris Kane, Shannon Lang. Will Johnson pulled out before the reserves game on Sunday as well. So there are a few that we could possibly look at, but I don't think outside Will Johnson that group that I just mentioned would be available for selection.
It's a little bit unfortunate. Probably got still a few more weeks in the bag, unfortunately. And overall, we said at the start of the year that it was always going to be a bit of a venture into the unknown this year with the turnover on the list from 2014. But what do you think have been some of the positives to take out of the first 10 games? And in addition to that, perhaps which new recruits have stood out for you in terms of their impact around the club, both on and off the field?
Yeah, look, we've played obviously 10 games, so that gives us 8 in the second half of the season, as we know. And I would say 9 out of those 10 games that we've been reasonably competitive, and we've lost games by small margins, and they are certainly things where the opposition have just been able to do it a little bit better than us. It could be a combination of things that we've already touched on. The Box Hill game, we were just beaten by a far better side. So if you think, just using that as a base guide, we should improve in the second half because of what we're trying to work on, and the longer you work on things and the better you get at it, then obviously those close losses are hopefully turned into wins. Now, in relation to impact, it's been a little bit interesting because it's been a lot of inconsistency, I think, due to a number of reasons. And Jordan Lyle's probably had a fairly big impact, I would have thought, and was good again on the weekend. Khan Heratuku kicked 5 against Frankston, but didn't really impact on the weekend because he had to play a dual role forward and in the ruck when Sam Gilmore especially went down that last quarter. So he's probably been reasonably consistent. You'd probably like him hitting the scoreboard just a little bit more. Blake Pearson, we mentioned before, I think has been pretty consistent as a forward, so him along with Geordie Lyle. Huey Sandilands, up until he got injured, I thought he was certainly in our best 2 or 3 forwards for the season. If you look at Dan Toman, I think Dan's been pretty consistent. He's only missed the 1 game, and I thought probably 1 out of those 9 games that he's played was below a contribution that you'd accept. I think Nathan Batsanis has been pretty consistent throughout the middle there. If you sort of go down back, I'm struggling to probably come up with a defender who I think outside Lucas Cook has probably played somewhere near his best, and Lucas had an interesting start because he had a hip operation over the summer. Damien Mercedes in sort of flashes, probably nowhere near as consistent as last year. And I'd really think there's not much else that's actually coming to my mind. So that in essence probably says as much about why we're 6-4 at the minute. And our development team unfortunately got beaten by over 100 points by Box Hill on the weekend as well. So what's actually pushing up underneath doesn't seem to be really there. You're bringing guys in, whether they're injured or whatever, basically coming in and not having had to play consistently well for a number of weeks. So you don't get that internal pressure either. And some guys subconsciously think, oh, well, I don't have to put in too many ordinary ones because there's potentially not that much coming through the system. But it may be up to the cockroach to actually shake a few trees and see what happens after the break.
So as you said, we're 6-4. It's a very tight, tough and even competition with only 2 games separating the top 9 sides on the ladder at the moment. Having reached the midpoint of the season in the position that we're in, what expectations are you placing on the group for the rest of the year now in terms of playing finals, top 4, top 8, etc.?
Well, we never shy away from the fact that we've got to win enough games to play top 8 footy. And then if we can obtain that towards the end of the season, then of course you aim for as high as you can. That's obviously top 4. So those 2 goals won't change one single bit. We obviously need to get a lot more of our players into some pretty significant form over the next 8 or 9 weeks, because we talk about guys who have been lengthy absentees, but they're not going to come back in the next 1, 2 or 3 weeks. Some may not come back until possibly towards the end of the year. Guys like Jimmy Magner and Joshie Scipione and Shannon Lang, just to name 3. So they're important players, so we've got to give them something to obviously come back to be able to be involved in. We've certainly got to try and decrease our injury list. I'm not so sure right now that that's going to improve all that greatly. We obviously need our development team to be competitive and not be looking at getting a hiding by over 100 points. If you go back 3 or 4 weeks ago, we probably could have nearly pinched that game against Box Hill out at Box Hill in the development team. So we've obviously got to structure our training to be better so that the players are actually consistently making better decisions, better skill execution, and also two, being able to work in the 3 areas of the game. We've got it, they've got it, or it's in dispute. So there's got to be some real significant improvement starting off, obviously off with Monday week, because they get the rest of this weekend off.
Well, Gary, a thorough chat on Borough TV today as we enter our bye, but thanks for your time, and we look forward to seeing yourself and the boys back in action on Sunday week against Casey.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.